The stocks are slippery on the London Stock Exchange early today, even as we speak. But the pound, the British pound, remain strong against the US dollar. Let's get Simon Pusey from our London studios to give us a few insight into the first trading day of the week as we get it started. Morning, Simon. Good to see you. Come on here.
Morning, Bosun. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, let's start with the shares. A subdued start for the FTSE today. Traders continue to worry about China-America trade relations. I know you've mentioned that on the programme already, while Brexit and its latest twists and turns are still very much a big ongoing issue here in the UK. The FTSE 100 started the week up 5.33 or 0.07%. The FTSE 250 slipped 24.16 or 0.12%. Moving to the equities, it's all about travel companies and airlines today. Thomas Cook's shares dropped by 40% on Friday after a high-profile City analyst said the company's shares were worthless. Today, its shares are at a 5-year low. Meanwhile, Ryanair, the airline, their figures were published today, showing profits were cut by a third, mainly due to the rising price of fuel and dropping ticket prices. Ryanair shares have fallen likewise almost 6% to 10.18 this morning, and that news has hit the industry. Budget airline EasyJet is the biggest faller in the FTSE 100 so far today, dropping 3.28% to 99.9. Closely followed by the holiday firm TUI. They are down 2.37% to 808.6. And then finally, let's turn to the currencies. The pound to the dollar exchange rate collapsed over 2.2%. That was last week. The decline came as the result of the collapse of the cross-party Brexit talks between Labour and the Conservatives, which had promised to potentially deliver a softer customs union. But that failed, and markets are preparing for the resignation of Prime Minister Theresa May. News about that every day, it seems, at the moment, and expressing caution that she may be replaced as Prime Minister by someone a little bit more extreme on Brexit. So markets always worried about that. Well, today the pound fell 2.99% against the dollar to $1.2 and 1.79% against the euro to 1.14 euros to the dollar. So we will check back in you later about the markets and about equities and stocks. But for now, that's it from us.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Simon, for dipping our finger into the water to start the new Business and Markets Week. Have a great day, Simon Pusey, and the rest of our team out of the City of London. Okay, so the Nigerian market is starting off on a very positive note. Once again, we've had this now looking like a third session of positive reading. We're just about 0.17% on the all-share index. The euphoria around last Thursday's mega listing by the mega telco giant, telecom company, MTN, is still in the news. The telecom sector grew last quarter, the first quarter of this year, but the numbers a little bit sluggish than the last quarter of last year. But the telecommunications sector is still there. You can check up all the readings of the GDP, very almost 100-page document. But let's talk more about the morning after. MTN is here. And, of course, today's trading day. Temple Ashaja, business correspondent, live from the Stock Exchange, where our studio is based in downtown. Morning, Temple.
I can't hear anything.
Okay. I guess Temple is a bit patchy there. Of course, we told you about very heavy downpour in the city of Lagos. If you're here, you already know that. That's impacting a bit of a technical hiccups this morning, and I'm in the middle of all of that. But let's show you what's going on now. The banking sector seems to be, the banking names seem to be taking the counter higher as we speak. GT Bank, Zenith Bank, FCMB, and Access, part of those who are making very gentle gains to start today's trading day. Dangote Flour is sneaking in the middle of that. That's taking off the full trading week that will be taking us effectively towards the end of the month. Next week, we're going to have a few more days to trade. In terms of those who are declining early today, these are very small names: RAK Unity, Eternal Oil, First Aluminium, who is heading out of the market in terms of a delisting. May and Baker in the healthcare sector, a bit flat, and Northern Nigerian Flour Mills But again, if you look at the top trades, of course, you know the big names will be there. The banks, almost all to FCMB, Zenith Bank, UBA, and Access Bank. So it's going to be a very busy week. On the calendar, the market will be reading through the GDP numbers that is just released today. If there's anything there for the equity market, that will be part of the conversation tomorrow. Of course, when the big story is the, what's it called, the MPC interest rate decisions by the Central Bank of Nigeria Monetary Policy Committee meeting. That will cover that for you extensively, as always, here on Channels Television as well. So you need to keep that at the back of your mind. Meantime, the statistics office called the MBS says it's quite satisfied with Nigeria's GDP numbers coming through for the first 3 months of this year, according to what's a very heavy document released earlier today. The NBS says it is worth noting that the general elections were held across the country during the first quarter of 2019, and this may have reflected in the strongest first quarter performance observed since 2015. Aggregate GDP, that's the gross domestic product, stood at 31.794 trillion naira in nominal terms. That aggregate was higher than the first quarter of last year, which recorded 28.438 trillion naira. So if you look at the GDP numbers in naira terms, first quarter this year was better than first quarter of last year. That's a year-on-year nominal growth rate of 11.80%. The MBA says the big numbers or the big sectors for the 2.01 GDP print in first quarter of 2019 were information and communication technology, which is the ICT. Agriculture posted a very decent, about 3%. Transportation and storage was better. Trade and construction also much better. So the non-oil sector contributed about almost 91% to the GDP in the period under review. And that's better than 90.45% recorded in the first quarter of last year. So year on year, yes, the numbers look better, but the stock market will be taking all of that in its chin as we put all of this together for everyone for tomorrow. But let's check back with Temple Ashaju, business correspondent from our studios at the Stock Exchange. Temple, good morning. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Temple, what's the mood right now? Is the euphoria around MTN still there? What are folks talking about or very eager about as we start the new market week?
I think a lot of people are still really interested in MTN shares. People keep calling to find out how can I participate. In recent times, I can tell you, both in that a lot of fund managers, a lot of stockbroking firms here have received plethora of account opening, creation, from investors, retail investors. I think MTN generally seems to have brought back retail investors more to the market because a lot of people are really interested in it, considering the amount of money that they've spent over their purchase of vouchers and invested in buying their lines over time, and the fact that the confidence of a lot of Nigerians is really high on MTN, so they're really interested in it. Unfortunately, the float on it is not enough to accommodate this liquidity that we have in the system, Bosun.
Yes, the float is thinning out, and that's where a lot of questions are being raised right now, and that's where we would like to have more clarity. Perhaps from the stock exchange. We spoke with the CEO, Ferdy Moolman, about this float, and he says this float will be coming through to about 35%, but it looks like they're not going to turn on the tap fully, so it's going to be a dripping a little bit into the cup on the market floor as we move on. So no one should expect mega million units coming through. But of course, there were reports, I'm sure you're on Twitter over the weekend, a few cross deals were done between the big boys in the stake of the MTN.
Yeah. Some 200 billion naira worth of loan was signed. I think that was on Friday or thereabout. That's a day after listing. You recall as well, both in that the CEO, Mr. Moolman, had talked about some investments in 4G network, some expansion drive that they're embarking on, which is what such fund will be channeled towards. Again, when you talk about the corporate governance system, that they also had in mind the fact that it is the same board that had been on the the same board members that had been on the board for donkey years, for about 20 years now. There's about time for these guys to reduce their holdings or maybe even exit the company eventually. Perhaps that's one of the key reasons why they're looking to go for the IPO, possibly to fund some of these expansion plans that they have, and of course to be able to create room for liquidity on the listed shares here in the market, Bosun.
Okay, Temple, you think of MTN as an elephant, a very big one, big elephant. And if you are touching it, if you are touching the trunk, it's going to be very soft and sweet. If I'm touching the...
That's the yellow elephant.
Yeah, the yellow elephant. If you're touching some other parts, it's going to be, the body is going to be a little bit hard. So some folks, everybody's touching the elephant in different ways. Size, big, small, soft, whatever it is. Whatever part you're holding, keep holding onto it and keep looking around and keep touching. Have a great day, everyone. See you tomorrow here on Business Morning on Channels Television.